can't stop me. I'm telling you fools that I got nothing left to lose. Broken and bruised, black and blue, still on the move. And I'm showing the world I still got a lot more to prove. Now I'm coming out, swinging for your throat in the ring. Standing there bleeding, yeah, you know what I bring. You know what I mean? Dark when the bell is rung, cause it's a little too late now to get up and run. Get up and run. You're broken every part of me. I'm putting it up in down. I keep rising higher, higher, higher now. Don't fuck with me. Never gonna hold me down. I keep rising higher, higher, higher. The world can't stop me now. You see it's a calm before the storm. I was born for more, now you got me ready for war. Remember my name, everybody out of my way. Back up or get knocked out, this ain't a game. Cause I never stay down when they push me around. See the world stand up when they give me the crown. Now it's go time, do or die, dead or alive. You can try to kill me, but I will survive. I will survive. You're broken every part of me. I'm putting it up in down. I keep rising higher, higher, higher now. Don't fuck with me. Never gonna hold me down. I keep rising higher, higher, higher. The world can't stop me now.
You can't stop me. Can't stop me. No, 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 you can't stop me.
I'm bloodied and I'm beaten down. I keep rising higher, 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 higher.
You're broken every part of me. I'm putting it up in down. I keep rising higher, higher, higher now. Don't fuck with me. Never gonna hold me down. I keep rising higher, higher, higher. The world can't stop me now. Can't stop me, no, can't stop me.
What's up, all y'all trickly bastards, and welcome back to It's 1700 Somewhere. As always, I'm Athen,
And I'm Don.
and he's Don. Don, Don, Don. All right, so, yeah, it's time to do the show. So, yeah, we just got off of the L Train Fighters a little bit ago. Had some pretty interesting stories stuff to talk about there, and we got some interesting stuff to talk about today. So, unless Don has anything he wants to talk about real quick, I can go ahead and jump into the first story.
No, man. Shitty week. So
Get that. So we'll start in with some Floridaman stories. Let me go ahead and share screen right quick so you guys can actually see what we're talking about. Oop, there we go. All right. So our first story for today is going to be Florida Man. Florida Man awarded $37,500 after cops mistake glazed donut crumbs for meth. So I've heard stories like this happening before. I just didn't know it was actual, like, legit. Wasn't that like in a movie or something like that? But a Krispy Kreme donut was to blame for a white substance that led to an Orlando man being jailed on drug charges. Results from roadside drug test kits conducted by law enforcement officers can be unreliable. It sounds like a joke, but, well, keep reading. And Oh, this is an old story. Okay. So that's probably why I've heard of it before, because this story itself is from 2017. I don't know why it was so recent in the Florida Man list, but
Right.
we'll just roll with it. So in December 2015, 64-year-old Daniel Rushing had just dropped off a friend at chemotherapy and was driving home an older woman from his church who worked at the 7-Eleven and would otherwise walk 2 miles home. As Rushing drove away from the convenience store, police pulled him over. The officer said he had been driving 42 miles an hour in a 30 zone and had failed to come to a complete stop before entering the roadway. When Rushing handed over his driver's license, Officer Shelby Riggs Hopkins noticed his concealed weapons permit. Rushing confirmed he had a pistol, and she asked him to step out of the car for her safety. The officer then asked if police could search his car, and Rushing said sure, if it meant he wouldn't be ticketed. Rushing watched as the officers, who now numbered 4, conducted a very thorough inspection of his car. Finally, Riggs Hopkins said to him, "You want to tell me about what we found?" "There's nothing to find," he said, confused. Pop-ups. But Riggs Hopkins had noticed some crystals on the floorboard of the car, and when officers used a field testing kit, the white substance tested positive for methamphetamine. Rushing said that was impossible. "I've never even smoked a cigarette," he protested. The officer showed him the substance in question, and Rushing was aghast. "That's glaze from a Krispy Kreme donut," he explained. "I get one every other Wednesday." But officers weren't buying it. Rushing was booked on charge of possessing methamphetamine while armed with a weapon. As he sat in jail, he asked himself, "Lord, what am I doing here?" "It was funny," Rushing says, "because I called my wife to tell her what happened, and the guy next to me waiting for the phone started to laugh." He said, "This is crazy. I think you got a real good lawsuit here." So he spent more than 10 hours in jail before being released on bail. Orlando police sent the evidence it had collected from Rushing's car to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement for further testing, which determined that, just as he'd said, the white crystals were not a controlled substance. Results did not indicate whether the substance was sweet and delicious. All charges against Rushing were dropped. It would be a funnier story if it hadn't been so closely replicated in Oviedo, a Florida city northeast of Orlando. Okay, so another person was pulled over in March for driving without headlights and arrested by Oviedo police when court records showed that he was out past his court-ordered curfew. Those records were later shown to be out of date and inaccurate. Police saw white dust on the floorboards of his car, tested it with a field kit, and it tested positive for cocaine. He went to jail for 90 days in which he knew that the white substance in his car was simply drywall dust. Know for a fact it's drywall because I'm a handyman. So apparently Florida has a long.
Wait. No, go back to it.
Okay.
Scroll up a bit more. All right. So there was a spot where it was talking about how police are using these drug testing kits.
Okay.
So Rushing instant field kit. No, keep going up. Like, go to where you left off.
Okay.
All right there. Police in Orlando and Oviedo, like many other law enforcement agencies, use inexpensive field kits to test for drugs.
Okay.
So because we talked about this on an old episode of 1700, where it's like they have these drug testing kits, but it's coming to a question on like how reliable are these kits, right?
Yeah.
Like where they're getting them, how they're able to test like on the spot for it. And it's like, because you have now glazed sugar, you have drywall dust testing positive for drugs when clearly they don't even have the same chemical composition of it. So how exactly is it that these are testing positive? Right. Oh yeah. So what does that say? That quote, some tests use a single tube of a chemical called cobalt thiocyanate, which turns blue when exposed to cocaine. And then, yeah, it also turns blue when exposed to more than 80 other compounds.
Methadone.
How is this a reliable thing that we need to be using?
Yeah, and especially with the fact that like this one dude spent 90 days in jail because drywall tested positive. It's like,
right.
As a preliminary,
and he doesn't have much for a lawsuit because it's to the court. It's like standard processing, you know.
So it's with this type of a test kit. To me, what it seemed like is this shouldn't be the end all be all. Like if this says it's positive, you get arrested. What this should be is a preliminary type thing. Like, okay, so this is indicating that this could in fact be a drug. At which point they should, move towards a more accurate form of testing before jumping on the let's arrest them bandwagon.
Yeah. And how long do you think those test results take?
Well, I don't know, because this is a particular
So
brand.
I mean, but so it's like, yeah, what, they're gonna keep them on the side of the road until they get lab results back?
Well, I'm not meaning exactly lab results, because from the way this article is saying, it almost sounds like there are other brands of test kits that are a little more expensive that would be
Right.
more accurate. So
Right.
they probably use these cheap ones because with the, how often they end up having to field test things, so they just use a cheap one. So, they're not wasting all kinds of money doing this. But I think they should have higher quality, more accurate ones on hand in case of a, situation like this.
Right. And it all comes down to they need more reliable kits from the get-go. Not even worried about like, have one kit as a preliminary, have like another kit as like another measure, and then like an actual lab. No, they just need to have a better kit for a preliminary on whether or not they're going to arrest or charge somebody, and then actually, have lab results back after the fact. But like, that's ridiculous.
So
Like,
let's see.
turns blue, and then there's, oh yeah, by the way, there's also 80 other things that'll turn blue for it.
Right. So for his part, Rushing bears no ill will toward the city's police department and says that the arresting officer was very polite and nice.
Because he didn't have to wait 90 days.
Right. He worked alongside the police as a Parks Department employee for more than 25 years, and his brother is a former Orlando cop. He says the issue is that the department keeps using the kits despite the well-documented problems with using them. These kits give a false positive 1 out of every 5 times. He says, I'm thinking about running for state house next year, and if I do, I'd like to get something done about these kits. So yeah, right there, freaking almost a quarter of the time they give a false positive.
20%.
Yeah. So it's like, I agree with it. I don't think that's a reasonable margin of error when a person's freedom is at stake based off of that.
Right. I mean, think about anything else. Like if a car came out and the brakes failed 20% of the time, it would not be released for use.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
I mean, we've got like signs and stickers saying, hey, don't take your toaster in the bathtub with you. But it's like, if like anything else failed 20% of the time, how is it that they're able to sell it?
McDonald's ice cream makers.
Right.
I guess I watched a video on that. I guess apparently McDonald's ice cream machines are specifically designed to fail. It's like the company that makes them there's only one company that McDonald's franchise owners can buy ice cream makers from, and there's one ice cream maker they're allowed to buy, and it's made specifically for McDonald's. And it's like, I guess some of the software they have put in it is designed so that the ice cream machine will fail and the employees have no course of action to be able to fix it or identify why it's failing. So then their only option is to call out a technician. Whereas other places like Wendy's and Carl's Jr. and all that use the same ice cream makers or ice cream machines from the same company, but aren't, the McDonald's ones, don't have any of these problems. And I guess McDonald's is partnered with the company that makes these ice cream machines. So.
Right. And they're also partnered up with like Coca-Cola to get like a certain brand of syrup, and then they get their meat from like certain areas. And that part makes sense. But it's like, I remember when I worked fast food, like our shake machine, it was mechanical, it would get cold and it would spin a thing in order to like, make ice cream shakes. There wasn't like any software involved. It was like, pull it apart, you clean it and put it back together. And it's like, it's not like now when then like there's a system, like even like their soda machine runs through, it has like a time cleaning cycle. It's like, I remember like some places it would be like, oh yeah, you can't get a soda because our thing's like doing its scheduled self-cleaning, and be like, what? Granted, I do feel better that, it's actually getting cleaned.
Yeah.
However, it's still a big enough inconvenience for it.
It's like when I worked at Arby's, we had one of those kind of ice cream machines, and like
Right.
there was never any problems with it there. But I don't know. I'll have to send you a link to the video that I watched on this. It was from Food Theory, Game Theory, Food Theory, Movie Theory, that YouTube channel.
No.
Okay, so
Maybe game theory. I've like come across maybe like a video once.
So it's Matt Pat's videos and all that stuff, and this was on Food Theory where he goes through and basically he does investigative reporting about things.
Okay.
So and he went through it and basically broke down all of everything to it. So and interviewed people that are current fast food employees, people who are former fast food employees, technicians for the company, and just got real deep into everything. It's a pretty interesting video. I'll get you the link for it. But
Right.
Let's go ahead and roll on to the next Florida person. All right. Florida person. All right. So bring up my screen. This next Florida person story is police in Coral Springs woman mad about breakup, hits ex with hammer, smears car with barbecue sauce. So that's a picture of her. In Coral Springs, Florida, a woman was arrested Tuesday after striking her ex-boyfriend with a hammer. She also hit the windshield of his car with a hammer, punctured the vehicle's tires, and further vandalized the car by smearing barbecue sauce and whipped cream on it. What is the point of the barbecue sauce and whipped cream? So, police said they responded to a domestic dispute call and spoke to a man who said the couple had decided to end their long-term relationship. He said that his ex-girlfriend, later identified as Beth Bianca Bruna, 22, had become enraged when he went to her apartment and put her belongings on the ground outside. According to the report, the man said he had been dating Bruna since December of 2019. When she saw the victim putting her things outside, she ran out to confront him and began throwing eggs at his vehicle. The man admitted to police that he got out of his vehicle and hit Bruno with an open hand with enough force to drop her to the ground. Not long after the incident, at her apartment, she returned to the victim's house where she began damaging his car, including applying the barbecue sauce and cream. The victim told police that while he was trying to stop Bruno from the vandalism to his vehicle, she took the hammer and hit him above his eye, causing a laceration. He was treated for the wound that would require one staple to close, according to the police. The report said the assault only stopped when Bruno's sister confronted her and then called the police. Bruno posted bond and was released from jail the next day. She faces aggravated battery, using a deadly weapon, criminal mischief, and simple battery dating violence charges. Simple battery dating violence charges? What?
Huh.
So, and that was it. I don't know what the hell a simple battery dating violence charge is. That's weird.
Barbecue sauce and cream.
She just
Ben and Jerry's next flavor.
right?
Get it at Cold Stone today.
Creamy Q sauce. All right, so
Right.
that was some of our Florida people stuff. We got some real crazy stories that come in from Florida. That's why we made it a segment where we talk about it. And so coming into our next one. So Florida man fired after fake vaccine card business exposed on TikTok. So a Tampa area man lost his job at a marketing and a web design company after a TikTok user exposed his video advertising a fake COVID-19 vaccine card business. Why it matters: without an official database for verifying vaccinations, those little pieces of paper are currently the best source of proving vaccination status. And vaccines remain our best chance to reach herd immunity. The state of play: James Concar's fake vaccination card video, which included the caption "Fuck masks," was highlighted by Mississippi pharmacist Savannah Mom, who has posted other viral call-out videos linked to the pandemic. Mom also showed Concar's LinkedIn profile and several other TikToks where he used misogynistic and racist language. Just 6 hours after Mom's post on Friday, Tampa marketing company 1305 announced it had fired Concar, who lives in Wesley Chapel, according to a public record search. 1305 declined interviews with Axios, and Concar could not be reached for comment. He has since deleted his LinkedIn. Over a year into this pandemic, and we do not have time to coddle these people. We don't have time to joke. Patient safety and public health are not a joke. Over 500,000 people dead is not a joke. Creating vaccine skepticism when this could end the pandemic is not a joke. If you're going to post it on social media, I'm going to respond on social media. So Concord has not been charged with any crimes as of Monday. Tampa Police and Hillsborough County Sheriff officials both said they have not charged anyone with crimes related to forging vaccine cards. So, yeah, he's not. Apparently, they're not going to arrest him for it, but he did get fired. So, I mean, I feel as though that could potentially be a good reason to be for him to like be arrested or whatnot.
Well, I mean, I guess it kind of depends on like what, you know, how the enforcement of forgery actually is handled, right? Because it's like, so what do they consider a forgery, right? I mean, and then like, what constitutes something to be like a chargeable act, right? Well, if I say, like, if I write on a piece of paper, like the ace of spades, is that now a forgery? And now I'm liable to be charged with a crime because I made something, you know, that isn't what it truly is?
I think with this, it's going to be more a fact of he'd have to. It seems like in order to be making these fake vaccination cards, he'd have to be impersonating a medical doctor of some sort. I would assume in order to do that. So I think that's how that might come into play with it. If it, you know, were something they could bring someone up on charges for, I would assume.
But I mean, that's under the assumption that he is a medical professional, right?
Yeah.
So if I just had cards, and which would be like blank. Let's say like I had like, I don't know what a vaccine card looks like, right? Well, let's say they're like white little cards saying, hey, vaccinated X whatever day. What if I had a blue one, right? And then like maybe the information is completely different. So is that is that also fraud? And is that also forgery?
I don't know.
Or what about a blank index card that you can put anything on it? You know?
I think the water's a little muddy on that because I think it has a lot to do with a lot of intricacies to it. Because one, going out and pushing fake vaccine cards could effectively, to an extent, depending on how you're going to look at it, be causing greater problems, I guess I could say, down the road as far as people thinking that you're vaccinated, you're saying you're vaccinated, and then spreading the disease further. I don't know. Not really something.
Yeah, I guess if those vaccine cards were used in a way that if somebody had a counterfeit one, it would, be a threat to public safety. But right now, there's no avenue in which those cards are being used that way, right?
Well, I know.
There are talks about like, say, concerts and sporting events, or where it's like, oh, you have to show proof that you've been vaccinated in order to attend. But that's all like hearsay right now. Like that's all theories and ideas on that, things that like people are willing to do.
Well, like I said, I know in Oregon, like they're starting to open up a lot of restaurants and stuff like that, and your vaccine cards are your way to be able to actually go in and into restaurants and all that. So I know out here they actually are doing that.
Yeah, here they're not doing that.
So, but
it's like show up to a restaurant with a mask, and then like as soon as you get to your table, the mask comes off because COVID can't get you if you're sitting down at your table, but it can get you if you're at a bar with no food.
And then also, interestingly enough, since I moved back here to California, I have noticed that they are much, much less strict about the masks. Like,
well, maybe the part of California that you're in.
Yeah, because it's like being in Oregon, it's like, I went everywhere with a mask, and anytime you go into a store or anything, they're like, where's your mask? And you have to put your mask on. Here, I did that a couple times, and I'm looking around the store, I'm like, nobody else is wearing it.
Dude, I'm in the Southeast. It's like, there's some places where like people don't wear shit. Like even the people like working, they're not wearing anything. And then like I'm the jackass that's actually got one on, and then they're like, Sorry, I'm like shaking up my tea, so I'm not like doing anything shady here. So,
Just do it below the camera. Do it below the camera. So,
oh yeah, that'll make it worse. But, but yeah, and so I look like the jackass because like, oh, I actually have one. But then again, it's like habit. You know, you go to enough place. It's like I don't want to go to a place and then not have one, then go back to the car and then come back. So like, just have it like, you know, as like a force of habit.
yep.
So,
I'm the same way, but I'm getting used to it not actually being such a big deal. I think that's pretty cool. So, all right. So,
Yeah.
if you have any comments on that whole thing about the dude forging fake vaccine cards, go ahead and hit it in the comments or hit us up on any of our pages or anything like that. We're going to get
Right.
on to the next show now, our next story. All right. Florida man chokes and stabs his wife in an attempt to help her commit suicide. So, this is in Pinellas County, Florida. A husband and wife, married since 1979, struggled with her suicidal tendencies for several years. She is now deceased, and he is a suspect for committing assisting self-murder. According to a Pinellas County search warrant, it was April 11th, 2021, when Detective Gerald Creaser was called out to Lake Seminole Square and its independent living facility. The senior community is located at 8333 Seminole Boulevard. The search warrant states that 2 staff members had gone to Joyce Ann Chance and Manuel Chance's apartment to conduct a welfare check, as the couple had not followed the normal morning routine to press a button to indicate that all was well. When they entered the Chance's apartment, the staff found the couple's identification cards and a do not resuscitate order on the kitchen counter. The staffers found Joyce Ann Chance, 81, unresponsive in bed, and Manuel Chance, 81, talking on the phone with one of his children. According to documents, Manuel told one of the staffers that Joyce took Klonopin and wanted to die, and when she began breathing heavily, he began to choke her, but he said the choking failed, so he took an ice pick and stabbed her with it. Manuel admitted that he overdosed on Klonopin as well. An ice pick was seen in plain view on top of the dresser, and a knife was found on the living room couch. Joyce had 3 puncture wounds to the left side of her torso, one of which penetrated her chest cavity and caused a pneumothorax, causing air leakage in the space between the lungs and the chest wall. The couple was transported to Largo Medical Center and listed in critical but stable condition until Joyce died on April 20th at Suncoast Hospice of Mid-Pinellas.
Wait. Both of them went to a medical. Like, what was wrong with the guy?
He also overdosed on Klonopin.
Oh, okay.
So,
And then
yeah, so
that's Joyce. Is that the male Joyce?
No, Joyce is the wife.
Okay.
And then
She didn't die on the spot, so she survived the stabbing.
Yeah, she survived the stabbing and survived the overdose and died in the hospital. But,
Jeez.
yeah, and that's kind of sad, really sad actually. I don't really know what else to say. Here's some.
Wait, go back up. It said who wasn't arrested as of April 30. Manuel Chance has not been arrested.
Huh. Joyce Ann Chance's obituary indicates she had a plot in the veterans section of Florida Hills Memorial Gardens in Spring Hill, but that she wished for her ashes to be scattered in the Gulf of Mexico. So according to WebMD, a small number of people experience side effects to include depression, unusual changes in mood or behavior, and suicidal tendencies when taking Klonopin. And Florida law statute 78208, assisting self-murder, every person deliberately assisting another in the commission of self-murder shall be guilty of manslaughter, a felony of the 2nd degree, punishable as provided in those statutes. So it's looking like
one of those clauses.
It's looking like he should be getting arrested, but he hasn't, and that's interesting. So I don't really have any knowledge to be able to put towards that.
What if you drive somebody to, let's say, their cabin in the woods and then they commit suicide? Are you assisting in their suicide?
See, that's a good question there, because technically you are. I guess it would all be based around intent and all that stuff. So if you didn't know they were going to be doing it, then I think you should be.
But how are you going to prove that?
This is a good point too.
Right.
So
because then that person could have like left a suicide note and then just like pinned it all on you. So
Yep.
now it's all going to be hearsay.
And it could actually have a lot to do with how much they actually want to just get you in jail for something. So it's like,
Right.
so I don't know. I'll be keeping an eye out for updates on that one, so we can update on whether or not Manuel has been arrested, and if he's not, why he hasn't been. So we'll move
Right.
on to the next one. Sorry about all the chaos in the background. There's tons of kids here, and they're loud. So we'll get into this next story here. So federal court upholds. So this is actually a two-parter. There's two stories that actually are together on this one. So we got federal court upholds $30,000 in fines to Dunedin homeowner over tall grass. The homeowner announced in a statement that he plans to appeal the court's decision. Looks like that's his yard. Doesn't look that horrible.
No, I mean, there's some places, especially if you're tied to an HOA, which that one, I don't know if they are. Like, some guys will like come out to your lawn with like a ruler and measure your crap because they
That's
have
true.
nothing else better to do.
So, but $30,000 for that's a bit extreme. So a federal court upheld the city of Dunedin's decision to issue almost $30,000 in code violation fines in 2018 to a homeowner
so
for
it's
overgrown
a
lawn.
city. Okay.
Yeah, the city's doing it. This is
Okay.
So this is a story that happened in 2018. This story
Right.
was just published on the 29th, though. So, to a homeowner for an overgrown lawn, Jim Ficken sued Dunedin in May 2019 after the city agreed to foreclose on his home. According to court records, he and his lawyers argued Dunedin's fines were excessive and given with no notice. After a 2-year legal battle, a judge from the Middle District of Florida ruled on Monday that the 71-year-old will have to pay up. Ficken said he plans to appeal the court's decision. The city's behavior toward Jim is outrageous. Read a statement from Ficken's attorney, Ari Bargill. This ruling emboldens code enforcement departments across the state to impose crippling financial penalties and empowers them to do so without first notifying a property owner that they are potentially going to be fined. So the city of Dunedin has defended the fines. Local officials said Ficken was a repeat code violator in 2015, subjecting him to $500 per day fines for future violations, such as having grass that grows taller than 10 inches. Okay, yeah. Oh, so that is pretty
Yeah.
bad. That's what his lawn looked like for the fines. So,
But how is that? I mean, but how, like, but still, how is it finable? Like, why should the city dictate how tall your grass is?
that all I can.
Right. Well, then they need to find themselves on not fixing roads.
Right. So, because I have heard there are some places that the city will actually fine you for not taking proper care of your property because of the fact that it can create pests and all kinds of stuff like that. So let me see what this other article about this is.
Government's always going to get their money.
Always, yep. Just like in Oregon, they can actually fine you for collecting rainwater, and they do.
Right.
So, looks like this is pretty much the exact same story, just from a different source. So, yeah, it was updated on April 30th, so one day later. The city issued the fine in 2018. It was given with no notice. Yeah, it's the same exact stuff. When he returned home, he tried to mow his overgrown lawn, and his mower broke, the lawsuit said. Yeah, if you tried to mow that lawn with a lawnmower, it could definitely.
So wait, where did he go?
Ficken claimed he wasn't properly notified about the fine. He said he had left home for 2 weeks in July 2018 to manage his mother's estate.
Yeah.
That's when the first fines were issued by the city, the newspaper reported. During that time, Ficken said the man who mowed his lawn died. So apparently he had a person that was mowing his lawn on a regular basis, but that person died.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to Florida, like sometimes, especially in the summer, sometimes you gotta like mow your lawn like twice a week. But for it to exceed 10 inches, which is what they're claiming is the finable length,
that's gonna take some time.
That's like almost unheard of.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but granted, it is Florida, so I mean, it would take like what, a month and a half to get 10 inches.
I would say that sounds about reasonable. So, and it really depends on what kind of grass it is too. But
Right.
that's at the point of, when it's at 10 inches, you're going from having grass to actually having a hayfield. but yeah, so we'll keep an eye on that one as well. Bring back any updates on whether or not his appeals are successful.
Right.
So moving on to the next one, we have we're moving away from Florida Man now. Now we're getting on to just normal stories.
Alrighty.
So this one's a pretty neat one. I wanted to read because it sounded interesting. So this is a stranded sailor spent 4 years alone on an abandoned ship. Would you be able to spend years alone on a massive ship? Some people are natural hermits who enjoy spending most of their lives in complete solitude. But for most, being left utterly alone would be a special kind of hell. For one man, that hell has come to an end. On April 22nd, Syrian sailor Mohammed Aisha was finally allowed to leave an abandoned ship on which he had spent the last 4 years, completely alone. After the cargo ship, MV Aman, was detained by Egyptian port authorities in 2017, Aisha became its unwitting guardian. Due to various circumstances, he ended up being left all by himself on the floating hull. On his way home at the Cairo airport, Aisha could only describe his feelings in 2 words: relief, joy, he told the BBC. He later gave the news agency a slightly longer statement. How do I feel? Like I finally got out of prison. I'm finally going to be rejoined with my family. I'm going to see them again, he said. Over the long years of the ship, Aisha battled both physical and mental health issues brought on by his complete isolation from the outside. He had no company, no sanitation, no power, nothing. But in the end, he pulled through. Congratulations, Mr. Aisha. But how did he get abandoned on a dead ship? The whole story began in 2017 when Aisha joined the crew of the MV Aman as a chief officer, contracted by the Lebanese firm who owned another company in Bahrain. On its way through the Suez Canal, officials at the Egyptian port of Arabia stopped the ship. They discovered that MV Aman's safety equipment and classification certificates were woefully out of date. There shouldn't have been any majors with the problems. All the ship had to do was get to a port, get new safety gear, and get its paperwork in order. However, its owner simply said no. The Lebanese company that had contracted the ship refused to pay for additional fuel, leaving the ship stuck in the Gulf of Suez. At the same time, MV Aman's Bahraini owners ran out of money and declared bankruptcy. The ship was going to go absolutely nowhere anytime soon. The famous saying goes that a captain is supposed to stay with their ship until the bitter end. That wasn't the case here. At some point, the captain left and never came back. With no captain on the ship, an Egyptian court declared the next highest-ranking officer as the ship's legal guardian. That was Aisha. At the time, he simply shrugged and signed the court order as he didn't know what the decision entailed. The horrible truth dawned on him only months later when the rest of the sailors were leaving the ship. According to international law, Aisha had to stay with the ship come what may. He wouldn't be getting paid, and he had no hope for aid. His nightmare had begun. So basically, he was just given a shit.
Yeah. But what if he would have died? Could his family then sue the government?
I don't know. That's international law, too. So it's like you have a whole different variation because in like Saudi Arabian countries,
because no power, no sanitation, limited food, I'm sure. Like he would have run out eventually. So it's like if he would have died, could his family not have sued for basically sentencing him to his death? I'm
sure if it were an American ship or something like that it happened to, that would almost absolutely happen.
Right.
But I mean, and that's out there near Bahrain, so that's albeit it's still UAE, but it's a fairly Americanized part of the area.
Yeah, they're probably, well, he signed the paper.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's a harrowing adventure, being stuck on a ship for 4 years. I was barely able to do it for 9 months.
Oh. I was assigned to one ship for 5 years.
4 years was the longest for me. So, all right, get on to the next story we've got here. Oh, come on, open up. And open my share screen. I should probably not be narrating all this, should I? The 7 oddest things people tried and failed to smuggle. Smuggling drugs or guns is just too mainstream for some people. As long as there have been restrictions on trade, there have been smugglers. Weapons, drugs, currency, even entire military vehicles are regular fare for smuggling rings all around the world. But sometimes some people try smuggling more unusual objects. Let's take a look at some of the weirdest stuff that smugglers have been caught with. So, number 1, 150 tons of fossilized giant clams. It's rare enough for a person to try to pass through customs with an archaeological specimen, but 150 tons of them, that's some next level stuff. But in April 2021, the Philippine Coast Guard caught 4 people trying to smuggle 150 tons of fossilized giant clams. Known locally as Taclobo, officials estimate that the haul was worth approximately $25 million. According to the Coast Guard, this was the biggest giant clamshell bust in the region ever. Wait, does that mean that this happens on a regular basis? Apparently so. Smugglers sell the Taclobo on the black market to collectors who care more about owning fossils than how they were acquired.
So, what would be the proper way to acquire said clams, or is it illegal to have the clams in the first place?
I don't know. Let's look this up. So I'm actually just kind of curious what that stuff is. So
Because it's like, how is it smuggling, right? That he just brought it in. So, like, how is that different from, just owning it? I mean, yeah, it's 150 tons, but
oh wow, apparently this is a pretty common thing that happens. Because here's another one: giant clams worth Palawan 160 million seized in Palawan raid. Some 80 tons of Taclobo or giant clams were seized by authorities on an island.
Yeah, 160 million pesos. So
okay. So I'm not getting Wiktionary.
Giant clam, mother of pearl. So, is it illegal to have them?
I'm not really sure. I'm not getting really anything for this. The clam species became extinct during the late Pleistocene period, around 180,000 years ago. Annual increase in the size of the shell has been estimated at 1 centimeter a year.
Wait. Can you? Oh, I'll wait till you get back.
Okay. So, this is stone. So that's one that's for sale. It looks like apparently.
Yeah.
So what were you?
That third picture. The third picture.
This one?
No. On your left.
Oh, right here.
Yeah.
What? Oh, there it is.
That is huge.
That is huge. I'm guessing the problem with it is just the fact that they're an antiquity. I'd assume. I don't know. I'm not really.
But you're selling it just like you could like any antique furniture, like antique clothes, right? Mm-hmm.
I'm not.
So at what point makes it smuggling? I mean, did he steal it?
I'm not really.
And then it's
certain.
like, maybe. I mean, and there's some places that do have laws where it's like, technically you could steal from nature, but
yeah,
anyways.
I don't know. Even the Google didn't really bring up much information on
right. 200 pounds of bologna.
Yeah, 200 pounds of bologna. Call this guy Arby's because he's definitely had
Jeez.
In February 2021.
Going for the low-hanging fruit there.
Right. The U.S. Customs and Border Protection caught 49-year-old U.S. resident from Albuquerque trying to illegally bring almost 200 pounds of Mexican bologna into the country. The 22 rolls.
Oh, well, yeah, that'll do it.
Oh, and that might be why it's smuggling because they're trying to
Mexican.
Well, there's that on the bologna.
It's a foreign meat,
But with the shells, is because they're trying to bring them across borders, I think. So, and if they aren't declaring it, that's a customs thing, I bet. The smuggler had the 22 rolls of lunch meat didn't even contain drugs. Suppose the person just really wanted some authentic Mexican toppings on his sandwiches. Right. The smuggler concealed the bologna in the trunk of a 2019 Nissan Rogue in the space that normally houses the spare tire. Unauthorized imports of bologna are banned as the sausage contains pork, which could introduce foreign animal diseases into the U.S. The man was fined $500 and the bologna was destroyed. Man, what a waste of food. Is there anything special about Mexican bologna, or is it just?
I mean, not really. It's just bologna.
That's what
I
I
mean, I'm
thought.
sure
So
I'm sure it's seasoned and cured and, done differently,
mhm.
but I mean, same thing. No, like no fruits, vegetables, no meats, and then like I don't even think you could take in like cured sausage.
Yeah,
Like
there's
Mexican Slim Jims, I don't even think you can have.
so there's this show, Border Cops or Border Police or something like that. You see on
Right.
that one a lot of times they're stopping people smuggling food. Um,
Right.
in 2000, oh, here's a 3,000-year-old Egyptian sarcophagus. 2008, customs officers at the Miami International Airport got quite the surprise. In a shipment that had just arrived from Spain, they found an undeclared ancient Egyptian sarcophagus. With no ownership document, the officers confiscated the ornately painted sarcophagus, and investigation discovered that it had been stolen from Egypt in 1884. The coffin likely belonged to a nobleman called Emesi, who lived during the rule of Pharaoh Ames around 1000 BC. Over 120 years since its disappearance, it had made rounds between underground collectors. But all's well that ends well. In 2010, the U.S. returned the ancient noble's last resting place to Egypt.
Hmm.
The
I'm sure
severed,
after doing a tour of the United States.
yeah, right. So a severed seal's head. Severed severed seal's head.
Oh,
Severed heads have been paraded around throughout human history, but these days the practice isn't as widely accepted as it used to be. Maybe that's why airport security agents in Massachusetts discovered the severed head of a seal in a man's luggage in 2004. The smuggler, who identified himself as a biology professor, explained that he'd found a dead seal on Revere Beach. He'd decided to lop off its head and take it with him for purely educational purposes. Unfortunately for him, removing body parts from dead mammals is a federal wildlife violation. The professor was allowed to board his plane, but the seal head stayed at the customs. Now we can't help but
so,
go ahead.
so all right. Removing body parts from dead animals is a federal wildlife violation.
So
So, what about hunters
see,
when they when
that
they,
brings up because for other so there's that point, and then there's also roadkill because I can't remember if it's here in California or if it's in Oregon. You can legally harvest roadkill. So like if there's a deer that's been hit by a car, you can harvest that animal if it's still good to be harvested.
right?
And I would assume that it might have something to do with the classification of the animal. So like a deer would be a game animal, so there's that caveat, to get around the whole
All
wildlife
right.
violation.
What if this person was an Eskimo? What if he was a Inuit?
Don't
They
know.
eat seals.
Maybe, but doesn't sound like he was Inuit. He's from Massachusetts. So,
Hey, don't
uh,
judge.
so a human skull, severed animal
Yeah,
head
that'll do it.
are a gruesome thing to look around, but that's not just hardcore enough for some people. No, they need the ultimate thrill, smuggling a human skull. Now, there are actually a lot of these stories. Apparently, people like picking up skulls and taking them home for decoration. To highlight one case, a woman traveling from Haiti to Miami in 2006 was caught with a skull in her luggage, and not just any skull. This one still had its hair, teeth, and skin, and everything. According to investigators, the skull likely belonged to a black man who had died within a year. The woman explained that she purchased the skull to practice voodoo on it. See, and it's actually illegal to buy and sell human body parts.
Yeah.
So
So it seems
these
like
ones,
the tooth fairy's in the black market.
right? So we're gonna just go quickly over these last ones here. So preserved lizard penises. Good lord, I can talk. I promise. And then 420 pounds of cow brains. I understand why that would be a problem.
Yeah.
And those were the last two.
No,
So
no. All right. So, all right, you're gonna have to elaborate on lizard penises.
all right. So you'd imagine that most people wouldn't want anything to do with severed lizard penises, but it just happens that there's actually a burgeoning underground trade network around the things in Asia. Despite attempts to curb the illegal trade, lizard penis smuggling rings remain active. The two-pronged monitor penises can sell for anything between $14 to $40 each. People aren't buying these things to satisfy some weird reptile craving, though. In fact, they usually don't even know it's a lizard dong. Underground traders claim the penises are actually mystical roots from the Himalayas. Superstitious locals buy them as they believe owning one brings fortune and wealth. That said, others buy the penises to eat them as an aphrodisiac, to get you in the mood, like some lightly fried lizard penis.
Wow.
So,
$14 to $40 each.
damn, that's got some value to it. And these are for monitors. It said.
Yes.
So yeah,
yeah.
The 2-pronged monitor penises. So, and where did he? It didn't say where they were being. Oh, in Asia is where they're coming from, because that's where you find monitors. But it doesn't say where this was actually, where they actually caught him smuggling it.
Oh, right.
But like, I would assume that it would be pretty difficult to get a hold of lizard penises. I'm just.
They're really dedicated to their work or their craft.
Right. So the penis is actually in the cloaca. We discussed that last week. So, all right, we're going to move on to another one of these stories. So, and we've only got a couple more. So
right.
Go ahead and get this one. All right. Huge butt plug sparks grenade scare in Germany. It might not have been explosive, but the toy still probably devastated something at one point. You can never be too careful, especially when you believe you've uncovered an explosive device. But this story goes to show that looks can be deceiving. On April 26th, a woman was jogging in the woods in southeastern Germany near the town of Sonnen. Suddenly, she noticed something strange that stopped her dead in her tracks. On the ground by the path was an old plastic bag. Inside it was something that looked exactly like a hand grenade. Concerned for the safety of herself and others, the woman didn't waste time. She pulled out her mobile phone and called the emergency number. Her phone call sparked a full-blown bomb defusal operation. The bomb squad from the Bavarian police department rushed to the scene as quickly as they could, reported past hour now new press. The bomb defusal experts cleared the area. Supposedly, we're not quite sure if there was anyone to clear out. Then they approached the grenade and began working on defusing it. I'm assuming that's a picture of the object. But explosion imminent. Except there wasn't much to defuse. Instead of carrying out a controlled detonation, we assumed the bomb squad returned with a hearty chuckle. When examining the supposed grenade, the explosive experts discovered that it wasn't a grenade at all. Instead, it was a sex toy, a roughly grenade-shaped butt plug of a respectable girth.
Respectable.
The other contents of the plastic bag made the nature of the rubber implement much clearer. According to the police, the bag also held an empty tube of lube, two used condoms, and a USB cable. But the officers wanted to be absolutely certain that the object was meant to go up a person's keister, so they did a Google search for grenade-shaped butt plugs. And true enough, they found exactly what they were looking for.
I wonder whose phone they used.
Right? So a huge surprise. I don't think I'm going to go all the way through this whole thing. The thing was a butt plug, case closed. How these items got there and why they were left there can only be surmised. Police said, however, based on the advanced state of decomposition the plastic bag was in, the officers made an educated guess. The butt plug had been abandoned a long time ago, despite butt plugs not being exactly their area of expertise. The bomb squad did dispose of the toy properly. It's good to know that there are
so they publicly claimed, and it's like, I don't know, I'm not quite sure, but I'm pretty sure this is what it is.
Right? Freaking. But what's getting me is, you have the lube, you have the used condoms, you have the butt plug. What's the USB cable for?
Right.
So
it vibrates.
Right. So, and on to the next story. So we got IT teacher takes students to lap dance club.
I think we've heard a story similar to this.
I think so. And oh yes, I do need to do the reads. So let me get that out real quick. So I'm gonna drop the reads real quick. So make sure you check out WO Entertainment on Facebook, WOE headquarters, or the WO headquarters on Facebook, and check out all the other shows, and stay just tuned on all the stuff that we have coming up. So for our shows that we have going, we got Tuesday at 12 Central. Where's My Girl with Roy Anthony? That is a comedy show. Tuesday at 1700 Central, the WO Radio Show with Redneck Pimp, Goose and Tater. That's just a talk show, comedy, entertainment type stuff, similar to what we do here. Wednesday, 1900 Central, we got Blue Phoenix Gaming with Jen. Jen plays games and talks about games. So Thursday at 12 Central, the Where's My Grill with Roy Anthony again. Thursday at 1400 Central, we got Cars and Coronas with Gapple Bays. Cars and Coronas, he does a lot of stuff with cars. He'll watch supercar win, supercar fail videos and kind of review it. And he plays car games and talks about cars on that show. Thursday at 1700 Central, the Harambe Keeper with Mickey. That's again just a general talk show. Mickey likes to talk about topics, involving the VA and veterans issues and stuff like that. Friday at 1900 Central is the Hideout on Spreaker only with me. That's 2 hours of good time music on your Friday evening. Saturdays at 1900 Central, we got Hot Box with Matt, which is a barbecue show. And then Sundays at 1400 Central is the Ale Train Fighters with me and Don. That's the one that was on just before this. And then Sunday at 1700 Central, we've got It's 1700 Somewhere with me and Don, which you're listening to right now. Also, don't forget to go check out OVB Barbecue and see if they have anything that you might want to get purchased from. And one last other thing, the Redneck Pimps comedy shows, go ahead and check out WO Entertainment page for information on that. And also for more information on Warrior Fest coming up later this year. So we got those reads out and moving into the story. IT teacher takes students to the lap dance club and only gets banned from teaching for 3 years. Richard Glenn, 55, threatened students and took others to a strip club when he was drunk on a school trip in Costa Rica in 2019. He has been banned from teaching for 3 years. Glenn was sent home early during the Long Ridge Towers school trip because of his actions. He admitted to gross misconduct and was dismissed in August 2019. Glenn, or Mr. Glenn, as he was referred to in school, was heard but a misconduct paddle about the incident. He taught computer classes and was one of the leaders of the group of 16 to 18-year-olds that went to Costa Rica on July 5th, 2019. He was supposed to be there until July 28th, but he was sent home after 6 days due to his behavior. His actions included drinking with pupils, allowing one or more pupils to drink alcohol despite being under the legal age of 18, threatening to kick the head in of one pupil and kill another, telling one pupil, "I'm not in trouble, you'll be in trouble." After being aggressive to one pupil, he kissed the boy's forehead and told him, "You're all right." Taking one or more pupils to a strip club, acting aggressively towards the woman leading the trip when she tried to help him back to his tent, and exposing himself to the woman in a shared hotel room, although it was agreed this was not malicious or sexually motivated. He said there was no malice or sexual intent in taking the students to the lap dance club. He said that it was inappropriate and unprofessional for him to have not controlled the situation. Although he later added that he couldn't remember what happened due to his state of intoxication, but he did not dispute the recollection of those present. The panel was shown.
He knows how he gets. He's like, yeah, that sounds about right.
The panel was shown drink tickets bought at the lap dance club and said that it was satisfied that his conduct amounted to misconduct of a serious nature, which fell significantly short of the standards expected of the profession. The panel's report said Mr. Glenn was at various times during the school trip under the influence of alcohol and therefore not in a position to adequately take decisions or act in loco parentis should the need arise. This was in circumstances where pupils under his care were in an unfamiliar country, far from home, and relying on him for guidance and protection. Mr. Glenn was an experienced teacher and pastoral leader who would have been expected to lead an overseas trip safely and would have been well aware of the conduct expected of him. Glenn will have to apply for the ban to be lifted after 3 years, panel said. But he's a preacher too?
It just says pastoral leader, so I mean it could just be like Sunday school teacher.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. So, but I'm wondering if his like whole drinking thing is just because I'm in whatever Costa Rica, did it say? So, yeah, Costa Rica.
They went to Costa Rica.
Mm-hmm. Maybe it's just a situation of
that dude's like, yeah, I'm on vacation. I'm gonna live it up.
So, but if he's a pastoral leader, then I don't
No,
know.
I mean that's just I mean something he's doing on like his off time. I'm sure he's not getting
Mhm.
paid for it. So I
True.
mean that's just like throwing more dirt on him.
Mhm. So, but that's, I mean, he had a good time. He doesn't get to do his job anymore, though. Alright,
Right.
so we got two more stories. This one I'll cover right now, and we'll get into that last one. So, hundreds of Joshes battle with pool noodles to determine the ultimate Josh. If you thought epic battles for the throne are just the stuff of fantasy, think again. We probably don't need to tell you that people got slightly bored over the course of 2020. Stuck with the same four walls, some started entertaining themselves with anything they could come up with. One of these people was Josh Swain, 22, a college student from Tucson, Arizona. To pass the time, he organized the Swain Bowl. Essentially, Swain Bowl was to be the final battle to determine the rightful owner of the name Josh Swain. What started as a joke ended up becoming a very real event. On April 24th in Air Park, Lincoln, Nebraska, hundreds of Joshes flocked to the park to decide once and for all who was the ultimate Josh. There was just one problem. Only two Josh Swains showed up. But the most difficult problems have the most creative solutions. And so Josh Swain of Tucson and Josh Swain of Omaha, Nebraska engaged in a grueling and righteous battle of rock, paper, scissors. The event's creator emerged as the winner. All hailed the one true Josh Swain. But that was just the appetizer. The main event, an all-out pool noodle fight, open to everyone, called Josh, began immediately afterwards. After the brawl, one stood victorious. The winner was a certain 4-year-old Josh who was coronated as the king of all Joshes with a Burger King crown. May his role be long and his decisions wise. So, we can. That's a lot.
Wait, go back up to that second part.
Mhm.
Swain Bowl got its beginnings. Yeah, Facebook joke. Yeah. Challenge all of the members to fight with the right to bear glorious name, Josh Swain. Yeah, so putting his whole name makes it like, not. I mean, there's not a lot that would possibly show up unless for some reason he thought, oh, my name's actually pretty popular.
Yeah,
But
it's a
like,
common name.
so he had like two events because it made it sound like the Josh Swain thing and then like the Josh thing are like two different things.
So yeah, it seems like he created the event for the Josh, pool noodle battle for the ultimate Josh, and then,
Yeah.
but what it really sounded like is he was hoping there were going to be more than two Josh Swains, so they could
Yeah.
have a battle and figure out
So
who
is it the
ultimate.
same thing or two different events?
It was all done at the same time at the same place. Like the two Josh Swains did rock paper scissors.
Yeah,
then
but I
after
saw
that,
like
and then after,
pictures I've seen of the thing. It's like a bunch of people. So how's it only like two people showed up?
well, it said there was only two Josh Swains that showed up. So let's see.
Which makes
Essentially,
me
Swain
believe
Bowl.
that this is like two separate events.
Well, it said it all. So what started as a joke ended up becoming a very real event. On April
Yeah.
24th,
Yeah.
hundreds of Joshes flocked to the park to decide once and for all who was the ultimate Josh.
Yes,
There was
that
just
sounds like
one
one
problem.
event.
There was just one problem. Only two Josh Swains showed up. So because there was only two Josh Swains, they did rock, paper, scissors to find out who was the ultimate Josh Swain. Then after that, all the other Joshes got in the pool noodle fight.
So then where did all these other Joshes come from? If he set up an event for Josh Swains.
That it doesn't really explain. It just sounds
Right.
like he was. I think he was just setting it up for everyone named Josh to show up, hoping that there
Right.
was going to be, hoping that the name Swain was more popular than what it actually is, or more common anyway.
Right.
So is what it sounds like. But there was only two of them, so they did what they could with that and kind of did the rest of it. And I think it's cool.
Gotcha.
Like I think the actual pool noodle battle might have been like kind of not trivial. Because a 4-year-old won it, so it was obviously just a game,
Right.
just something to have fun. So
Yeah.
that's a pretty cool thing. We should have gotten Josh involved in that, I think. So Josh would have beaten that little 4-year-old on the head with a pool noodle, though.
Yeah, he would have just like kicked that kid in the face.
So our last story that we have here, and the Evergreen and Suez Canal thing is starting to show its ugly effects. So The Suez Canal blockage leaves Europe without garden gnomes and sex toys. Not a gnome or a dildo to be found. What a bleak, harsh reality we live in. The Suez Canal getting blocked by a cargo ship has to be one of the biggest fuck-ups in recent memory. The whole fiasco brought a good portion of global trade to a screeching halt. With the canal clogged, ships carrying goods and materials couldn't get to their destinations. As a result, people in countries around the world are now facing shortages with various things. But the UK might be having the worst time of all. The country is reportedly struggling with a lack of garden gnomes. We haven't seen a gnome in 6 months now, unfortunately. Ian Byrne, assistant manager of Highfield Garden World store, told The Guardian. There aren't any. There's definitely a shortage, he added. Since gnomes aren't coming in from abroad, this seems like a good time for British gnome makers to set up production, right? No such luck. Even the basic elements of making garden gnomes have run out. Raw materials are becoming a bit of an issue, and unfortunately, gnomes are a victim of that shortage. Gnomes of any type, plastic, stone, or concrete, are in short supply. Byrne said, how can the country survive this disaster? Return to nature? It's all talking about all the gnomes. Where's the dildos? Okay, here's the one with the dildos down there. All right. Return to nature. Why are the British so enthusiastic about purchasing garden gnomes? What is it about the lawn ornaments that has driven this shortage? The answer lies in COVID-19 pandemic. The UK is still under partial lockdown, and at this point, people have been confined to their homes for nearly a year. With so much time on their hands, the British have turned to the only outlet available to them: their yards and gardens. It makes sense, since you can't go anywhere. You might as well make your yard look nice and lush. Okay. Gnome into demand. Apparently, having a gnome in your lawn is a must for British gardeners, but with so many people wanting a bearded fellow to brighten up their yards, the shelves are now empty. And can't get no satisfaction. So this is where it's talking about the sex toys. So speaking of the rest of Europe, it's not just garden gnomes that are in short supply. Some countries, like the Netherlands, faced a shortage of a fleshlier variety. Namely, one of the ships stuck in the canal was carrying 20 containers filled with sex toys, from dildos to vibrators and male masturbation aids. The ship's carnal cargo had something to scratch every itch. Unfortunately, there was no way for these goods to reach lusty consumers. EDC Retail, the largest sex toy retailer in the Netherlands and Belgium, said it had nothing to offer its customers since most of its existing toy stock had been swept up earlier in the year during Valentine's Day. Due to the shipping blockage, the company predicts it lost millions of dollars. Although ships can again slide in and out of the canal, sex toy retailers are still left unsatisfied. It is annoying that such a hitch will continue for a long time before the rhythm and the transport chain is restored. Limited EDC Retail's CEO Evertine Magerman. Just like with the garden gnomes, the sex toy situation was further exacerbated by the pandemic. Some sex stores have seen sales triple during lockdown. Suppose gardening can't satisfy all needs. And that was the entirety of that story. So at least it's not hitting America like that, right? You're muted, Don.
Right.
Here we go. So, we actually have comments.
Sort of.
Oh, okay. Oh, you had, I see what that. So, yeah, it's all about the gnome. Where's the dildos? So, but that was it. I mean, I don't have anything else.
No, neither do I.
So, I guess we can go ahead and shut it down for the day. So,
yeah, why not?
So yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you for joining us. We do this for y'all. And feel free to please come back next week, same time, same place. Actually, also check me out on Spreaker, playing music for 2 hours every Friday.
You got a theme for this week's show?
I haven't even started working it out yet, so I'm gonna have to get into that here in the next couple days.
Okay.
So my first week I did mostly rock. This last week I did country and rap. So I might go with 80s, because I did actually talk to Josh a little bit. He popped on the show for a minute. Actually,
80s what?
80s
80s
music.
rock or 80s music in general?
80s music in general. So
oh wow.
So I think I'll go with that for the whatever theme for next
80s
week.
music from the Bangles to Bon Jovi.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm also going to see if I can convince Josh to come on the show with me. So, because like I
Sure.
said, he showed up for the radio show this Friday. He was only on for about a half hour, but he was on the show.
Right.
So,
Okay.
so, yeah. So make sure you check all that out. Make sure you check out WO Entertainment on Facebook and find out where you can get all your watching needs. Either way, with that, y'all have a great weekend, and we'll catch you next week.
See you guys later.